and chill. But you already know. Jay, how you doing, man?
Hey, man. Playoff basketball, Tone. We got a lot of good stuff going on.
There's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk.
Man.
We're going to talk NBA playoffs. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk. Hey, it's the last section of round one of our all-time greatest franchise.
Mm-hmm.
It's the West 2, I guess. We're going to finish that off and then tell you what the matchups are for round number 2 as we narrow down the field. We're also going to do something that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but we were challenged and we're going to do it. We're going to give you, there's 10 games left in the NHL season, but if the playoffs were to start today, we're going to give you, hockey. Yeah, me and him, hockey. Going to give you our playoff predictions. But first, I want to read something to you. And I want to make sure I get it right because it's got me a little. Well, I'll read it to you and we'll take it from there. Justin Fields. You know what has to do with the Bears.
And then there's a perturbed look right there. So I know what that look looks like. So
Justin Fields is why the NFL needs a transfer portal. The second-year quarterback would be more than justified asking for a trade. It might actually benefit him and the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
NFL. So we know that college has a transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
They open up a window of time where players can transfer to other schools. This person is suggesting that the NHL, it's Sports Illustrated, is suggesting that the NFL should have a transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Before I go off on a rant, what are your thoughts on that idea?
Well, the NFL does have a transfer portal. It's called being a free agent. That's exactly what it's called. You don't want to play here no more, there you go. You want to go to Seattle, knock yourself out. And in college basketball, I sign my scholarship. I sign my letter of intent every year. At any point, my scholarship could be taken away. At any point, the coach, we might get a new coach, and I'm no longer welcome there. And because I'm no longer welcome there, now I have the right to go to a different school. I might be at this school, and this isn't working out the way I liked it. This isn't working out the way I thought it was going to work out. I was promised certain things that weren't delivered on. And now I can make a move. I wish that was going on when I was in college. Absolutely, I do. I absolutely wish that was going on. But there is a transfer portal in the NFL. It's called being a free agent. So
let me pause there and go back to college because you'd mentioned something that most people have a misconception of. When you sign your letter of intent, it's not for the whole 4 years. It's on a year-to-year basis.
That's it.
And trust me, from experience, I know if you get hurt, your scholarship can be taken away, as I learned firsthand. If your grades aren't what they're supposed to be, if there's a new coach that comes in, there's so many situations where I wish I had known this because as a 17-year-old kid, when I made that commitment, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I didn't know. I was like, I get a food card and,
right.
I get to play basketball. I was excited.
Get my own room. I get to sleep in the dorm. This is awesome.
This is awesome. Yeah,
absolutely.
They don't tell you about those 6 a.m. two-a-days and those stuff either, though. Okay, so that's my point. Is right away when I heard that and someone said to me, "Yeah, they should." Look how many the discussion I had with some people was, well, yeah, look at how many players go into situations that don't suit their kind of play style, who they are as a player. And I said, yeah, well, look how many players go into good situations where, they're better than we expected. Or here's a player that I always bring up. I know this is the exception to the rule, but a 6th rounder who ends up becoming the greatest quarterback of all time. It's the cards you're dealt. And then I said, if you're going to do a transfer portal and let players go wherever they want, well, then why even have a draft, right? Oh, just everybody comes out of college and now they can pick the teams that they want. You're not going to really like that because you're going to have a team like Alabama. Now, if you're an Alabama fan, you love this, who I think have been in the national championship game 9 years in a row or 9 out of 10 years, something ridiculous like that. Well, could you imagine if everyone just said, well, I'm going to go play here? There'd be no pair. Why do we love the NFL? Because a 5-11 Bengals team can make it to the Super Bowl the next year. That's what we love about them. And so my argument was exactly yours, which was you have a transfer portal. It's free agency. You sign a Now I get it. Now here's the one thing I do have a problem with. Contracts aren't guaranteed. So I get that. Teams can cut you at any time. I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of you. We sign a contract together. We agree to. We're married. Someone said it's a business. It's not a relationship. And I said, no, it's a relationship. It's a marriage.
Absolutely.
For those 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years that you've committed on both sides should be committed to making it work. Now you get traded. Okay. Sometimes you can ask for a trade. I don't like it public. I think you can do that behind closed doors. Like I don't like the thing going on with Debo right now. It's your team. So I did want to ask you about that too. How do you feel about the Debo situation?
Well, I understand his gripe. He wants to get paid. Pay me or trade me. It's that simple. And this is my asking price. And I'm not budging on it. And rightfully so. Debo is one of the most dynamic wide receivers in the game. And not only is he one of the most dynamic wide receivers in the game, we're in a different time now, Tone, where a lot of different players are getting paid. Wide receivers weren't getting paid like this 10 years ago. And these guys are taking advantage of it now. And the reason why they're taking advantage of it is because the wide receiver is now even more of an integral part of the offense.
Yeah,
so I do more.
League.
It's a passing league, and I am in high demand. So if I'm in high demand, you know what that means? My price goes up. And if you're not willing to pay, trade me because somebody else is. Now, I'm not really sure that Debo would feel going to play for the Jets because that offense isn't the same as the 49ers, where even though I would get paid, me not getting the football, that wouldn't coincide with me getting paid because I want to get paid and produce too. I
think he'll still get the football. I just think they're not going to win a lot of games. And people don't realize winning matters.
It does.
Like you don't want to be, and this is why now I take it back. I kind of knew it was going to go first. And that's why the transfer portal is not a good idea in the NFL, because just think about this. If there was a transfer portal every year. So Joe Burrow is in Cincinnati. They go 5-11. He says, man, this team, the culture's not great. We went 5-11. Them 49ers look pretty good. They got a really good defense. They got some good weapons. Maybe I should just jump ship and go over there. Well, now they never have that Super Bowl run. And then Debo Samuel says, I want to trade. Well, now what happens the next year? He says, forget it. Now I want to go play for the Colts. Like, could you imagine the chaos that would create?
But isn't that going on anyway, Tom? Because Devontae Adams, I want to get traded. And but he's not. He was under he wasn't going to be under the franchise tag. But these guys do that all the time, where a guy's under contract or a guy's coming to the end of his contract, and if you're not going to pay me, trade me. So these guys do that anyway. So that's not a situation.
I think they need to get rid of the franchise tag. If I were commissioner of the NFL, listen, the owners are going to hate me for this, but I would say contracts are now guaranteed, like the NBA. Mm-hmm. And please, to those, because there was people I forget on a different show that were talking about the NBA. There's like 1 or 2 players on every NBA roster, and they're like the 15th, 14th, 15th people on the roster who don't have guaranteed contracts. The top
everybody else got a guaranteed deal. Knock it off.
Guaranteed, yeah. I think it was Brendan Marshall and I Am Athlete, and I was like, I was on the phone with Coach Jackson. I was like, he's like, oh, I'm talking about Brendan. I'm like, tell him this. He's wrong. And I'm screaming through my phone so that he could hear me on the other phone. But so what I would do is I would get rid of. I would make contracts guaranteed. Mm-hmm. I would shorten the rookie contract deals. The amount of like maybe 2 or 3 years is max, and then they get to, because you got guys going 4 or 5 years on rookie deals that deserve to get paid. And I get it actually helps the team, right? I always bring back to Russell Wilson where they're able to play the defense. But I think like maybe or scale it, because there's guys who perform year 1, year 2, like really perform. And I feel like they should get their money, because the average lifespan of an NFL player is 3 years. So I want, them to be on a rookie deal and then out of the league kind of sucks. Right. And then the last thing I would change, so guaranteed contracts, shorten the rookies thing, and I would get rid of franchise tags. I hate either agree on a contract or be a free agent. Like this middle ground where you can control them for another year or 2. I hate that.
The only thing that I like about the franchise tag, because I'm a little conflicted because I like the guaranteed money. The only thing that I don't like about it is if you get hurt, you get nothing. That part I don't like.
Right.
That part That part is the part that burns me. The part where not only is it guaranteed, you get the going rate. So if Russell Wilson was to get franchise tagged this year, I mean, the going rate, or not even him.
No, you get top. Don't you get top 5? The average of the top 5 players that
that's what I'm talking about. That's the going rate of the top 5 players. So if they would have franchised Aaron Rodgers, they would have franchised him at $47 million, and then the next 2 years would have been like $52 million, and then $55 million. You're like, that sounds great, but the downside is if you get hurt, you get nothing. That's why these guys ask for so much money up front. Now, let's also make sure we're clear about this too, Tone. Can we dead this up, the logic of signing bonus? Signing bonus is just more money up front. They're not giving you extra.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that. We got to get rid of that too.
People think that, you know, you're getting a signing bonus. So this is no. So if you sign a $47 million deal and you get an $8 million signing bonus, no, that's just more the upfront money.
Let's be clear why they do that. It's a shell game. It's because the signing bonus doesn't go against the salary cap. Come on. Not everybody dives in as deep. When it comes to money, I'm a deep diver. So, okay. So that's my thing with that.
Yeah.
Now we move from the NFL to the NBA. Man, we just talked about the NBA playoffs 2 days ago, and in 2 days, as the world turns, man, like how much has changed. DeMar DeRozan was a choke artist. How did he do last night?
Well, I'll tell you how he didn't do. He didn't do what he did 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
He did not do that. And the logic of DeMar DeRozan being a choke artist just tells me that these people who call him that, they don't really pay much attention to the game, because there's only one guy that he's really been not very good against, and that's James. Everybody else,
pretty good.
He's pretty good. I'd like to think so, but that's the only guy who he hasn't been really good against. Everybody else, he's been really good against them. I watched him kick a number of different guys' backside. No question about that. And DeMar DeRozan has that kind of game where he can just outlast you. Well, what do you mean outlast you, OG? Well, everybody, all they do is shoot the long ball. DeMar DeRozan's in-between game makes up for all of that. And it's not a lot of effort with him neither. It's not like guys who stand behind the three-point line all day, and it takes effort to get into that kind of offense, Tone. DeMar DeRozan is very comfortable in the mid-range. That's why he's been around so long, and that's why he's been so good for so long. Now, we got to also remember too, the Bucks aren't very good defensively, not just this season, but I think they're a top 15 team defensively. But DeMar DeRozan goes after anybody at that position. Grayson Allen, Connaughton. And I love Drew Holiday. With the exception of Marcus Smart becoming the defensive player of the year, I still think that Drew Holiday is the best perimeter defender. I can make an argument that he's the best perimeter defender in the game.
It's not ridiculous.
But DeMar DeRozan, I like that. But DeMar DeRozan, he's just so good at what he does that he makes himself impossible. And there's no reason for me to think that the performance that I saw from him in game 1, that's going to continue. Because I haven't seen that from him, not just in that game, but I haven't seen that outside of James, outside of him going up against James. I haven't seen that against anybody else. So I'm not listening to that logic.
I think people always seem to forget this really important fact, is that in the playoffs, you're playing the same team 4 to 7 times. Defenses are going to make adjustments to stop what you do best, and you're going to then have to make adjustments to do something else. The pace of the game slows down. Typically, scoring goes down. The vast majority of players, go look at their statistics, because stats do tell you something. Yes, and what they tell you is the vast majority of players statistically go down in the playoffs. Why? Because defenses tighten up, because the game slows down, because the scouting reports get a little bit better. They get a little bit longer on you, and there's defensive schemes to say, hey, we're not going to get beat by DeRozan in his mid-range. We'll live with, Zach shooting threes or Vooch beating us in the post. And so now he sees that, and they have to counter it. There's maybe in the history of the NBA, 25 players whose statistics have gone up in the playoffs.
Not many, Tom.
It's not many. Most of them go down, and we don't look at that. We don't, and we should appreciate those 20. I'm just making up a number. Those 20, 25 whose numbers go up in the playoffs, because that's special.
And at to add to your point, it's not like they go up significantly. Jordan averaged 33 in the playoffs. It's not like Jordan went from 30 to 38. Jordan, he went up one bucket in the playoffs. James goes from 27 a game to 29 a game in the playoffs. It's not like it's significantly
a little bit
better.
But it's good.
It is better, no question about that. It definitely is better, no doubt about that. But
Wilt goes from like 50 to 21. No, it's not. But it's Wilt's a great player. He's a top 10 player, right? And even his numbers go down in the playoffs. So it's not crazy. Like people don't realize that part.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened in that series though is Chris Middleton. He's having an MRI. He could be gone for the series. He could be gone for the season. Like this isn't a short-term injury.
Sprained MCL.
Sprained MCL is bad. What happens? Let's go worst case scenario. He's out. Does that completely change the dynamic of this series? Can the Bulls knock the Bucks out?
Absolutely, it changes the dynamic of the series because this is my second best scorer who's now out the lineup. That's 20, 21, 22 a game that I no longer have. That's another ball handler that I no longer have. That's another wing defender that I no longer have that I got to make up for. Now, I hear coaches say all the time, next man up. Well, Tone, there's a reason, and you can appreciate this being a football guy. There's a reason why the backup isn't playing because he's not as good as the starter. Okay? So the next man up logic doesn't work because the next man up isn't as good as the dude that's in the lineup. So it's not like we're going to get the next man up and we're going to get the same thing. No, we're not. That's not going to happen. So because of that, they're going to take a dip. That means that Connaughton is going to have to raise his game. That means that Grayson Allen is going to have to raise his game. That means that Drew Holiday is going to have to raise his game. That means Giannis is going to have to raise his game. Giannis went almost 30 and 20 yesterday. And it was a dogfight. So now that 30 and 20 is going to have to look like something completely different now because this guy is out of the lineup, which it's definitely going to hamper them, Tone, depending on how long he's out now. Remember, Giannis sprained his MCL last year, and they only lost him for like a week when they played against Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And they only lost him for like a week. So we're only going off of worst case scenario. If he's done for the season, I doubt that if he could go, especially after seeing Giannis sprain his MCL, I doubt that if he could go, he's going to go. That he's not going to go. I mean, after seeing what Giannis did, I'm going back out there. No question about that. But this is not good, Tone. This is bad.
It's interesting when I compare football to basketball, and we use the next man up. You hear that all the time in football. I think the talent gap, though, depending on the player in the NFL, the talent gap isn't as big, right? Like, okay, maybe at quarterback it is, but I mean, like when one lineman goes down, the next line, because they're rotating defensive and offensive linemen in anyways. Now, are they as good as your stars? Of course not. But I think that the gap is smaller. The other with basketball, however, the gap seems to be bigger between starters and reserves. And the other thing is, I hate that term, next man up, because we know if that person if there was a person on the Bucks as good as Chris Middleton, they'd find a way to put that person in the starting lineup, or they'd be playing on another team as a starter. So clearly the person's not as good. So can that person perform to his level? No, it's not next man up. It's like next team up, because now everybody is, okay, Middleton's good for what, 20 a game? All right, well, the person who replaces them might have to, hey, we're going to need 12 or 15 from you, which means we're going to need 2 more from Drew and 2 more from Giannis, and we're going to need some more defense out of you. And right, it's everybody needs to step up when those people, are gone. And there's certain people, if Giannis goes down, there's no next man up.
None. We're dead.
None, right?
We're dead.
If we got another injury to talk about. Booker goes down. Who's coming in and putting in Booker's buckets? Like, are you worried about Phoenix now? Because Booker's going to miss at least the next 2 games. And what did you drop 31 in the first half? Like,
and the game was close, Tone. I will tell you that. The game was absolutely close. It wasn't like they were rolling over New Orleans. The game was close, but I didn't at any point feel like Phoenix didn't have control of this game. I always felt like that they had control of that game. When Book went out, it completely changed the complexion of the game. Because now what that did was that opened up everything. Because now that's another defender that they don't have. That's another scorer that they don't have. That's another ball handler that they don't have. So now we got to deal with C.J. McCollum even more, because now C.J. McCollum doesn't have to deal with Book. So now he can
he doesn't use all that energy on defense, which makes him fresher on offense. Yeah,
absolutely. So now he can focus more on scoring the basketball. So I think this series now gets extended, but I still think that Chris Paul is good enough that he could keep this group together where they could stay on top of this. I think that they could stay on top of this series. And I do think that it's, instead of it going 5, I think it could very well go 7 now.
Listen, when games are close, or in that series specifically, I'm like, the Suns will get it, right? Because they have Chris Paul. And you're just you figure he's gonna make the right play and they'll be fine. So that's why I wasn't worried about the game being close, because I have faith in it. It's when Booker goes down that I'm like, right? That's a bit, it's your top scorer. That's gonna be a problem. So so we had a couple of injuries. We're gonna talk about a couple more, but I want to jump into this because it's the first thing I wanted to talk about, and it's been gnawing at me. So last night in the Raptors-Sixers game, and I've been very critical of everything in this series. Listen, the Sixers are the better team. They're the more talented team. I'm not denying that. They probably should win this series. I'm not denying that. But man, how many effing breaks does the better team with the better players need to beat a team? Joel Embiid throws up a prayer with no time left on the shot clock, but no shot clock violation. No, the Raptors came down with the rebound. No, Doc Rivers called the timeout. Doc Rivers ran onto the court past Nick Nurse. That's how far he came from his bench to call a timeout. FYI, let me just rewind a second. At the end of regulation, Fred VanVleet comes down with a rebound with about a second left, and Nick Nurse is calling for a timeout. They completely ignore him. So I want to read to you NBA rule. Section 4, the coach's position may be on or off the bench from the substitution box line closest to the coach's bench. A coach is not permitted to cross the midcourt line, and if they do, they will be assessed an unsportsmanlike technical foul. So not only should Joel Embiid's three-pointer that won them the game in overtime not have counted, it should have been Raptors ball, shoot a T, which probably puts them up by a point, and the ball with no time left in overtime. That is what should happen. The fact that they missed this and allowed it to happen is an atrocity. And I go back to what I said after game 1. The NBA should be ashamed of themselves that they're letting this occur. On top of that, there's more. And I can't find it now because I'm angry. Do you know which team? Actually, I'm going to find it. Do you know that the refs can call for reviews themselves on certain plays? I'm sure you're aware of this.
I am aware of that.
Okay, so the refs can say, hey, you know what? We're not sure if that was a three-pointer, if that was a, whatever it was. So it's called a referee's challenge. And I'm scrolling back because I have it here somewhere. So if there is, 3-point shot clock violation, the refs can review these things.
Now, you can only do it, Tone, late in the game. So in the last 2 minutes of the game is the only time you can do it. I can't do it. So, like, for example, if the ball goes out of bounds, I can go review if I got that right. They don't need the time. I can review that in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yes. So what team do you think in this NBA playoffs has had the refs challenge more than any other 2-1 over any other team in the NBA?
Let me take a guess. I don't think it's Brooklyn. No. How about Phoenix?
I think you know who it is. Why I'm bringing it up.
Would it be Toronto, Tom?
Yeah, it's Toronto. Like there's one where Fred VanVleet is 3 feet behind the 3-point line, and they reviewed it to say, was it a 3? Come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I love my conspiracies, but don't make it so obvious. The Sixers are the better team. They have more talent. They're the higher seed. They have home court advantage. They don't need the extra stuff.
I don't need any more help. I think I'm good.
Let me just stick to the technical because people think I'm getting on my soapbox, and I'll stop. I don't know if you were watching.
I did.
I had finished. I played basketball last night, and I'd gone to a place of food and drink and merriment with all the guys to watch to watch the game and maybe have a pop or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen it was chaos in there. if you were watching,
I was watching.
Did you like throw your hands up and like what the like
the call at the end of the game with officiating? As you know, Tone, I refereed for 5 years, and as an official, one of the things that we have to know are the rules.
You would think.
We have to know the rules. More than anything, we got to know the rules. And there's a reason why you have a coach's box. Not only is there a reason why you have a coach's box, we mention that to the coach during the game. All right, coach, that's far enough, coach. He does not have to come all the way over to the other side of the floor, because me standing in the trail position, that's the guy closest to half court, me standing in that position, I'm checking for him anyway to see if he's calling timeout. You know why? Because I'm not watching the ball. There's 2 other guys out there. I'm watching what's going on in front of me, and I'm seeing if I can hear Coach Doc Rivers. I can hear him say timeout, 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 timeout. He doesn't have to run that far over to me to call timeout. That's first of all. Number 2, with all of that being said, Tone, I thought that Tobias Harris did a really good job on Siakam.
He did a great job on Siakam.
I thought that
especially late in the game, especially. Absolutely.
I thought he did a really good job on Siakam. Siakam wasn't nearly as aggressive, not just going to the basket in the mid-range. He was making it really difficult on him, almost to the point where he plays him to a tie. So when Tobias Harris plays Siakam to a tie, I'm living with that. Now, the difference is, what do they have, or what do we have that they don't have? I've already said it to you, Tone. I can give you this. I can give you that. At the end of the day, I have Hakeem Olajuwon. You do not, and that's the difference in this right here.
No, yeah, 100%. And let's not forget. Let me not put it all on the officials and the Sixers. Precious Achiuwa misses 2 critical free throws late in the game.
Huge.
Right? OG goes 1 for 2. Where they could have taken the lead, and instead it's a tie, and that's what sends them into over. So they still had their chance. So let's give it on both sides. But it's those little. Listen, every game comes down to those little moments where you're like, and when there's a moment like that at the end of the game, it's kind of like the Saints, that blown pass interference call in the playoffs, right? It's just like everyone's only going to remember that one moment because that was right at the end, and so that one's gonna stick. It's gonna, now because look, this is probably gonna be a sweep now, and everyone's be like, "Oh, Shaq, I told you so. It was gonna be a sweep." I'm like, "Yeah, but." So look, were they getting out of the first round anyways? Probably not. But I just, I want that consistent. I scream for consistency. I don't care who wins. I want consistency in the calls, and that drove me nuts.
I thought this series was going 5 games. I told you that, and even with Scotty Barnes being healthy, I didn't think that they could. Extend this series past 5 games. But in the offseason, I think that Toronto has to address a major issue, and that major issue is they are small.
When you've got Precious Achiuwa, God bless him, he's trying. But when he's on the court, we were saying this last night. And I know this isn't the difference, but when he's standing next to Embiid,
it's not even close, Tom.
Embiid looks like he's a foot taller.
It looks like this.
It's a huge difference.
It's not even close, y'all.
They need some help in the middle.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely. They could also use every team could use a superstar kind of go-to guy at the end of games, but that's less likely to happen than a big.
And I also left out that Maxey has clearly outplayed Van Fleet. It's not even a question. He's clearly outplayed him.
Maxey's outplayed James Harden on his own team.
Yes, he has.
Maxey's outplayed. I don't want to say he's kind of like he's on Kyrie Irving's levels so far into the playoffs. Like he's been dominant, which is incredible.
Well, you said it yourself, Tone. It looks like it's a different gear with him. Like it looks like he's just running faster than you. He's sharper than you. He's running faster than you. He's more precise than you. Especially when I see him in transition against Van Fleet, it looks like it's a bull chasing a bullfighter who can't really run that fast. That's what it looks like.
I said last night at the bar, I was like, man, he looks like he's a step faster than everybody on the court. And you know what they did? They laughed. They go, 1 step?
Right.
Try like a couple of steps faster than everybody else. Yeah, it's just good. Hey, we've been talking about Maxey all season, and he's just continued to play fantastic.
Yeah.
You know who hasn't played fantastic? Kevin Durant.
What's
this is gonna hurt all those people that were Kevin Durant's the greatest player ever. He's the greatest scorer of all time. Not in the playoffs. What's been going on? Are they just playing such great defense on him, or is he just?
Well, I think it's a combination.
Or is he just having a bad couple of games? I guess.
Well, I think it's a combination of the two-tone. Number one, that team defensively, their schemes. I think
best defensive team in the league, right?
And there's a reason why we're the best defensive team in the league. Their schemes where Marcus Smart being at the head of the attack. We catch Kevin Durant and we catch any of these guys on the perimeter. We catch them sleeping. You got guys helping off the basketball. You got guys being physical off the basketball. You got guys communicating. And when you got guys flying around, and not just flying around, so you got guys flying around and being disciplined. So, for example, I catch Kevin Durant on the wing against Jason Tatum with his back to Jason Tatum. Well, first of all, that's not Kevin Durant's game. Kevin Durant is a square you up one-on-one player. Well, he's got Jason Tatum on his hip, and he's trying to back him down. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not your game, which would explain why he's getting ripped in the open floor, right? Well, he's getting ripped because he can't see the defense. He can't see the defense, so now he can't make plays. Now, they're jumping him from his weak side, and because they're jumping him from his weak side, they're completely throwing him off balance. Add that to the fact, Tone, that they're also keeping the basketball away from him. So when you keep the basketball away from a scorer, you throw him off rhythm, which is exactly what Boston is doing. They're limiting his touches. They almost look like we're going to eat Kyrie Irving's production. You're not going to do it though. You, KD, we're gonna make it as difficult as we possibly can on you. Now, mind you, Tone, I'm not going overboard and going, yo, they're going to sweep these. Boston didn't do anything that they weren't supposed to do. All they did was protect their home floor.
They won the 2 games at home. Now Brooklyn has to go win their 2 games at home. Absolutely.
I'm not listening to the logic of, that yesterday's game was a must-win. No, it wasn't. It was not a must-win. And the reason why it wasn't a must-win is because it's a lot different. Coming back to Boston, tied 2-2, and now the loser of the game 5 is now facing an elimination game, as opposed to we can't come back here 3-1. That can't happen. But I thought that they did a great job just in transition on Kevin Durant and in the half court. Just in transition in the half court on Kevin Durant. But the most important thing, Tone, offensively, make Kyrie Irving, make Curry, make Dragic guard. Those dudes do not want to guard.
Right. 100%.
Make those guys guard, and you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot less offensively, and that's what happened. They made those guys guard, and I thought that was the difference in what they were doing.
I also like, going back to Boston's defense. One of the things that Kevin Durant, just because of his height and his length, is able to do typically is shoot over people. Mm-hmm. But you're throwing Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum at him, who are long. So although they're not as tall as he is, they've got big wingspans, and it even that little bit that throws you off your game a little bit, right? Like I remember, I think I want to go back to the James versus the Pistons the first time, right? Mm-hmm. What was that? They had Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. The biggest thing was they were long. So as he came in through the lane, it wasn't just smaller guys. There was guys, with long wingspan, bigger guys. I feel like they're doing the same kind of thing to Durant, whereas, hey, we're going to, Marcus Smart's going to bother you down low as you're coming up the court. And then we're throwing these guys who are going to contest your shots. And we all know contested shots are harder than uncontested shots. If I could shoot over people, I had a great game yesterday when I was shooting over somebody, and then they put someone who was 6'8" on me. It was a little bit harder to shoot over them.
Not so much.
So it was, and they weren't as good a defender as Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown.
Mm-hmm.
What else are we missing from the NBA playoffs that we should talk about?
Well, I also want to talk about how Jason Tatum isn't very good offensively yesterday. He wasn't, Tone. I think that he did a lot of things to let guys off. He wasn't attacking like he was in game 1, where he was getting Claxton on switches or Curry on switches or Irvin on switches. And he was going after those guys. I mean, yesterday he was letting these guys off the hook, shooting the long ball. When you get a guy like Claxton 22 feet away from the basket, you do not let him off the hook. Don't let him off the hook. Go after him. Same thing with Curry. Don't let him off the hook. And I think that a lot of the stuff that he got, he settled in the mid-range. I don't think that he was aggressive in the mid-range as he could have been, where he was kicking the ball out for threes, which, Tone, I know you're a long ball shooter, so you're salivating when you see guys shoot the long ball. I understand that. No question about it.
I was born in the wrong era.
Absolutely. You salivate with the but when you got a guy who's aggressive in the mid-range, what you do, man, is you shrink the defense. And now what that does is that opens up the offense even more for you as a long ball shooter. When I'm in here and I'm working in the mid-range, that means that those defenders have to help. And if they don't help, I'm going to destroy this guy, right? So I'd like to see Jason Tatum a little more aggressive in the mid-range as opposed to just kicking out everything for three. But this team defensively, Tom, I'm thinking about, man, they don't even have Robert Williams. And what they're doing defensively, if they could keep this thing, which I thought they did a really good job. I mean, they held Brooklyn to 17 points in the fourth quarter. If they could keep this thing in the high 90s, low 100s, they got a shot in every game.
My biggest look, if I'm nitpicking Jason Tatum's game, I've said this before, and game 2 kind of is indicative of that, is that I've always said the thing that's stopping him or holding him back from being kind of superstar to like that MVP caliber level is that aggressiveness. Yeah. I want to see him be more aggressive. I want to see him take over more often. Like he does it sometimes, like you said, like in game 1. It's just, but then there's other times where he's just like, I'm gonna chill back here. And I'm like, no, man, go. Now I get it. You got within a game, sometimes you got to, take a breath. But I mean, to see a whole game do that is just, I think it's what holds him back. All right, so we got some great playoffs going on. We're going to go back in time now and continue our NBA all-time greatest franchise. It's the West. We've done East 1, East 2, West 1. We've talked about the buys, Celtics and Lakers. Let's start this week in the West. The New Orleans Pelicans / Hornets versus the Houston Rockets. Let's start with the Pelicans Hornets, which is surprisingly a better team than I thought it was going to be. So you got Chris Paul, Drew Holiday, David West, PJ Brown, Anthony Davis, Tariq Evans off the bench.
Now, remember, Tom, they are the New Orleans Pelicans, but are we talking about the New Orleans Jazz that are now the Pelicans, or are they just the New Orleans Pelicans?
Just the New Orleans. Yeah, Utah Jazz will get all the Jazz people.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
the Utah Jazz will get all the New Orleans and the.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Because
in case you're wondering how Utah became the Jazz,
right? They were originally in New Orleans, right?
Jazz doesn't make sense in Utah, as you know firsthand.
It does not. No, so. I like that 5, though. I do like that 5 in New Orleans, though. I do like that. I think that Chris Paul, he keeps them at the head of their attack. Absolutely, man. With David West, he took them deep into the playoffs, almost won the league MVP one year. So I like that group.
Okay. I'm going to give you the Rockets one, and so I'll just give it to you to see. So we got James Harden, Tracy McGrady, Rudy Tomjanovich. People forget he wasn't just the coach. He also has his number retired as a player. I disagree with that. I don't believe he should retire numbers. I feel I'm going to say that a lot. Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon, the Twin Towers. They played together and made it to an NBA final. Yes, and Calvin Murphy.
Yep. I like that 5 in Houston. I just do. I think that as David West, as good as he is as a defender, I don't think he could do anything with Olajuwon. I think that I think that Anthony Davis would have his hands full with Ralph Sampson. But I think overall, that team, just offensively and defensively, I think that they handle New Orleans in like 5 games.
It's not. Yeah, I listen. I was impressed with the Pelicans lineup.
Right.
I don't know. Can we put that 1 week of Zion in there? Maybe that helps them a little bit. But it's like, oh wow. When I saw the lineup, I was like, hey, that's a really good lineup. And then I saw Houston's. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. So I'm with you on that one. I think Rockets. I think Rockets at 5, I think is generous to the Pelicans, because if you could imagine Ralph Sampson and Olajuwon down on the blocks, we know they can work together. We know they've done it. Heck, they went to an NBA final. But on top of that, then you got Tracy McGrady slashing to the hoop and James Harden shooting. Like you can't double low, because then Harden kills you. Tracy McGrady is a good shooter too, a little bit closer, maybe not from 3, but at least from the mid range. Where you pick your poison, you're getting beat somewhere.
And then I think the James Harden. Keep going.
I was just gonna say, and then where do you get your offense from as the Pelicans? Because Chris Paul, okay, he's more of a facilitator, but I guess you're gonna need him to score. Drew Holiday isn't really a scorer. David West is not a scorer. PJ Brown won't be able to score on Ralph Sampson, and as good as Anthony Davis is, Olajuwon will pick him up, even outside if he's trying to. Like, he is athletic enough. He's gonna have a heck of a time scoring on a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not going to be easy. Davis will get nothing inside. He'll just if you have Davis just sitting outside shooting, well, you're going to live with that. I don't know how they score.
Add that to the fact, Tone, that you're talking about James Harden being a shooter. I think James Harden turns completely into a distributor and playmaker. I think that he becomes now the fourth option on it, because playing with guys like that, I don't have to do nothing else. Because now the offense is going to open up so much more for me that all I got to do is make open shots.
I used to love playing with bigs, like good bigs, because I could just on the wing, just put it inside to them. They get doubled, they get tripled. What do? They kick it out to me, and I'm wide open. It's like shooting practice because I got no one guarding me. I love those. Oh, it's the best. All right, so we got Rockets over the Pelicans. Next one up is Spurs Mavericks. The Texas Showdown.
Oh boy.
Let's start. Let me start with the Mavericks. With the Mavericks. I'm going to disagree with this right off the bat, but I'll go through what we have thrown in. Derek Harper, Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Michael Finley, Dirk, Jason Terry.
Okay, so we're going to start with the point guard spot.
It's got to be Nash, right?
No, that's Jason Kidd.
Oh, Jason! Oh, I forgot about Jason Kidd.
That's Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd is the point guard in Dallas. So, and I'm a huge Derek Harper fan. I actually played with a guy in college who reminded me of Derek Harper. But he comes out, and Jason Kidd goes in. And I'm good with Finley. I'm good with Aguirre. I'm thinking about the rest of that group. Dirk, yeah, I like that group, Tone, because I'm thinking about scoring. I'm thinking about Jason Kidd being ahead of your attack defensively. In addition to him being a playmaker, I think that they're going to be rolling. Mark Aguirre is just buckets. That's all Mark Aguirre is. But the problem is, Mark Aguirre might also be a poison too, because he's one of those guys who, if he's not getting his shots, it's going to be a problem, and he can disrupt some things. So we got to make sure that we get Mark Aguirre. We got to get him reeled in.
We got to get him at his best. Now, don't forget, people are going to say, well, Jason Kidd, when he went to Dallas when he was in Dallas was older, but he was still.
No, he got drafted in Dallas. He was the second pick.
Oh,
when he came back.
I was thinking.
When he came back
the first time. Okay.
Yeah,
I forgot which one you wanted. I didn't know which one you wanted. Okay, the first version. Okay, good.
Rookie of the year, absolute co-rookie of the year with Grant Hill.
I keep forgetting that. I keep thinking of him the second time around when they win the chip, and I'm like, that's right. Okay, Spurs. This lineup. Tony Parker, James Silas, the Iceman, George Gervin, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and of course, who's the sixth man? Manu. Where else would he be?
Mm-hmm.
Any changes to that one? Did we miss anybody on that one?
I'm thinking about any changes to that San Antonio roster. No, I don't.
I'm good with it.
I was thinking about Ginobili. But then I was thinking about Robert Horry, but I was like, he wasn't there long enough. Ginobili is absolutely their sixth man, no question about that. Don't you bring up Robert Horry in any conversation, because I went off on someone telling me last night he should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to do it again because I almost broke the table I was sitting at because I slammed it so hard. So let's go. So that's Spurs roster versus the Mavericks. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, you got Tim Duncan and David Robinson. And the best that the Mavericks can throw at them defensively is Finley and Nowitzki. They're going to get pummeled,
destroyed in the front court.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then Gervin. I think Gervin offensively, they're going to try to go bucket for bucket. I think Gervin's a better scorer than Aguirre.
Mm-hmm.
The backcourt, I'm going to give it to the Spurs. To the Mavericks, but like by a hair. But then off the bench, Manu, Jason Terry, I'm probably leaning toward Manu. So I think Spurs in 6.
Jason Terry wasn't better than Rolando Blackman.
Well, he's coming off the bench. Okay. I was comparing 6.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, Blackman's going to be going up against James Silas, basically.
Yes. Now, here's the thing, Tone. I look at the Spurs group, and I think that they're going to put up a lot of points. But they're not going to be able to stop anybody. Only except and San Antonio is also going to put up points. but they're going to be able to stop guys. So that's going to be the difference in this series. I think they handled Dallas in like 5 games, 6 tops.
Ooh, well, we'll go with all right. So Spurs in 6. All right. That's going to be a great. This is all Texas. Then we're going to have Spurs Rockets. All Texas down at the bottom here. All right. Now we got Kings. Listen, the Kings weren't always the team you see today. The Kings used to be pretty damn good.
Real good, as a matter of fact.
So we got the Kings going up against the Grizzlies, Vancouver to Memphis. You know, can we pause for a minute? Do you think it's time that some of these teams change their names to suit the cities that they're in? Because there's no Grizzly Bears in Memphis. There's no Jazz in Utah. Granted, there's no lakes in LA either, but it'd be really hard to change the Lakers name at this point.
No, that's a staple right there.
But some of them that are like, do you think? Listen, can we change the New Orleans Pelicans? I just hate that name.
The Pels. I like the Pels, Tom.
Fly Pelicans. Yeah. All right, all right. We'll throw that out. And even the Kings. What were like the Kansas City Kings?
Yep.
All right, Sacramento Kings. You've got Robinson, Richmond. I always say Jack Twyman's name wrong, and I probably just said it wrong again. Chris Webber, Jerry Lucas, Tiny Archibald.
Jerry Lucas is a king? But Jerry Lucas is more known as a Nick. But Robinson at the point?
Robinson at the point, yeah.
Oscar?
Yes, sir.
Oscar was over when he played for the Kings.
I know, but who else? who would you put? Who else would I put at the point guard in Sacramento? Jay Williams, White Chocolate. Get out of here! He's not on no all-time team. No way.
Mike Bibby, no. Nah.
Come on. Hold on. Let me ask you: would you take Jay Will over an old Oscar Robertson?
No, I would not. No. No, I would not. So, all right. So we going with a washed up Big O. We're going with a washed up Big O. Mitch Richmond, Weber. I like that Sacramento team. They ain't bad.
Okay,
they're not bad. Who they going up against?
They're going up against the Grizzlies. Now, granted, the Grizzlies only been around since '95. So we got to take this into account. There's not quite the history there, but you got Mike Conley, Rudy Gay, Pau Gasol, this team's big. Zach Randolph, Mark Gasol, and my favorite, who we never ever talk about ever, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I love when the Vancouver Grizzlies drafted Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I was like, this guy's going to be a player. He wasn't, but I thought it was.
Sharif is off. No Sharif. Tony Allen is the guy.
Tony Allen, yes.
Tony Allen is the sixth man. Nope, Sharif is off. Because we already got our bigs. We straight with Gasol and Zach.
Never seen look at that. I just bumped him off another team.
I dig Sharif. Absolutely. He was awesome. But now that I look at that Grizzlies team, that's like a 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference. That's what that looks like. That's like a 4-5 matchup. And that looks like that could go either way. That could be a 7-game series, Tone. And I think experience from the Kings beats the experience from Memphis. And I think that a more experienced Oscar Robertson, I think he gets them over the hump. And I think that they beat Memphis in a 7-game series.
Really? I was thinking it's game 7. The Kings have no timeouts left. Chris Webber calls one.
No,
we won't do Chris dirty like that. We won't do.
No.
Yeah, I think the Kings. But again, I think it's super close. Now, if they had put Brian Big Country Reeves in there, wow, maybe having against Shaq, we might have had a different story. But I'm with you. But I do think it's 7, and I think it's close. But we'll go with the Kings. I'm going to, and I appreciate, as I always mention, you guys sending us this list. I'm going to go back and look at the Kings lineup. I might tweak it for round 2. All right, the next one, or the last one for today. It's let's call them the Golden State Warriors versus the San Diego Clippers. I refuse to acknowledge them as an LA team.
They've been in Los Angeles for how long now? Tell me what you're talking about.
Don't matter.
First of all,
I still call OKC the Sonics, and because they should go back.
Just so you know, folks, this guy, he's the guy who, he lives in the same room with his brother, and he doesn't want to share because he's got the better things. That's who this dude is, right?
I do have the better things. I got 17 rings. They have 0 finals appearances.
So he don't want to share. He don't want to share with his brother. But he's got to recognize that.
LA is Laker town. Let me tell you,
it is Laker town.
In my years when I lived in LA, I didn't see one Clipper fan, not one. And then until Lob City, when Lob City came, then all of a sudden, sorry, that's not true. Billy Crystal. I'll give Billy Crystal his credit. He's been always a Clipper fan, but that's because he likes pain. Because comedians are only funny because of their dark side. All right.
Yeah.
So here we go. The Warriors. My favorite player, again, whose name I always say incorrect, but I love him. 10 years in the NBA. 2-time scoring leader. 8-time, I think, all-star. Took 2 years off to go serve in the military. Everybody completely ignores him. Was part of that 100-point game by Wilt. Paul Arzine. Mm-hmm. Then there's a guard who people call a point guard, but he's a scoring guard because he drops 30 a game. Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. The king of the underhanded free throw. Rick Barry. Mm-hmm. If Shaq listened to him, by the way, he would have averaged 40 points a game. Just so you know, if Shaq threw underhand like Rick Barry taught him to do, he would have averaged 40. Or what? Or listen to you. Didn't you give Shaq some free throw advice?
Quick side note for you folks, just so you guys know, with the underhand free throws, Chamberlain's best season shooting free throws, he shot underhand. Just want to put that out there.
It's ugly, but it works. The granny shot. All right. Then we got Nate Thurman, Wilt Chamberlain. Jesus. And Chris, could you imagine a team that had Chamberlain and Curry? And Chris Mullin. Let's throw in Chris Mullin for good measure.
Mullin comes off and Clay goes on.
You're putting Clay over Mullin?
Yeah.
Already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Clay over Mullin.
Mm-hmm.
It's listed. It's on there. All right. They're going up against the San Diego Clippers. Here we go. Chris Paul, Randy Smith, Elton Brand, Blake Griffin, Bob McAdoo.
Oh, Chris Paul can't play for the New Orleans Pels and the Clippers. Which one is it?
It's a different one.
Okay.
It's a different. He's played for 20 years. You gotta.
He has been. He's been around.
He's had different iterations of himself. This is like 2K. We can have the same. It's an alternate universe. And then another guy we don't talk about enough. I really liked his game. I know he was never like a superstar, but I really liked Corey Maggette. I did. Corey
Maggette was one of those guys who he looked a lot better than he really was. And he should have been like, you see him and you thinking, yo, this guy is awesome. Just looking at him.
Yeah. Like if you would this is why I say be careful of the eye test, because he could run, he could jump, he could handle, he looked like he was muscular. He just
super freak athlete.
If I looked at him, I was like, man, that guy's a player. Yeah. All right. It's just never. So that's the Clippers lineup.
I'm not gonna, to be honest with you, Tone. I can dive into an analysis with the Clippers, but ultimately the Clippers have always sucked. So I'm going with the other team. Always, they've always been whack.
I don't care if you put. It's interesting we didn't put kind of any of the the Kawhi Leonards, Paul Georges, those guys, the current ones on here. I don't think it makes a difference if you got a team. I'm just gonna say 2 players. If you got a team with Curry and Wilt, you're making it out of the first round.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody that's gonna how do you guard a guy shooting from the logo with then Wilt down low? It's just you got to cover the entire their half court offense is like a fast break offense because you're covering from a half court.
And I want to retract my statement. Clay, you don't go on. Mullin is absolutely an all-time great Warrior, so I apologize for that.
I didn't want to argue with you.
Yeah, forget that. I can't believe I said that. No, I just had to retract. I'm thinking to myself, do you remember Chris Mullin? Are you serious right now? I'm sorry, my fault.
All right, Chris Mullin said, he was part of the Dream Team, right?
Right. First team All-NBA. I'm sorry. I apologize. My fault.
Listen, I allow you carte blanche to make your changes, so we got the Warriors. All right. So that's it for the final. So round 2 is now set. Round 2, I'm going to run it through again, and then we're going to get into our final topic. We've got in round 2 in the East, we've got Sixers. Oh, look at this. We got Sixers and Raptors. It's kind of like
that's
today.
Not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence.
We've got Nets. We got Nets and Wizards / Bullets. We got the Bulls and the Bucks, the Pistons and the Celtics. That's a little early for Pistons Celtics, but okay.
Right.
Then we got Lakers Jazz, Nuggets, Suns, Warriors, Kings, Spurs, Rockets. Man, round 2 is going to be this could get tougher as we go in because there's some good teams. All right. Now, you asked for it. We're going to give it to you. I don't know how we're going to do. Write it down, though, because like I said, we might nail this. There are approximately 10 games left in the NHL. Yes, we're talking ice hockey. In the NHL, there's about 10 games left, but the seedings are I think they're pretty set in the East. There's some debate in the West. You have teams like Winnipeg, Vancouver, and the Las Vegas Knights, excuse me, who could possibly catch the 8th seed, but we're going to assume the playoffs start today. So we're going to start in the East. I don't know how much research you've done. You knew we were going to do this. You had a day to prep. I did none. I'm going to go strictly off my gut. Round 1, we've got the Florida Panthers going up against the Washington Capitals as the 8th seed. You're from Florida. Are you going to be a homer, or are you going to go with Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals?
Well, first of all, they don't have the best record in the East. They got the best record in the NHL. They got one of the better power play teams in the game. And Ovi's... You did your work. I like it. Ovi's a little over the hill. Ovi is what James is today. Like, he's still good, but I mean, they're barely making the playoffs. He's chasing the all-time. He's chasing Gretzky. Goal. Yes, he is. He's chasing Gretzky's record. Yeah, let's be honest. He's chasing Gretzky. So I think that they handled them dudes in 5 games. I do. I think that Florida handles Washington in 5 games. Florida in 5. I got it in 6, but I also have Florida. We've got I'm gonna take them, even though I haven't taken them for my entire lifetime. My Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. The last time they were close was 1993. My Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Pittsburgh Penguins in the 2-7 matchup. I'm taking Toronto in that. Even though Crosby has been good in the playoffs, I'm taking Toronto in that series. I just think that they're a faster team, they're a more athletic team, and I think I'm going with Toronto in that series. Toronto has a tendency to fold up. I believe the term is like a cheap suit in the playoffs. So I am going with Pittsburgh to upset the Toronto Maple Leafs, which tells you a little bit about my hockey fandom here in Toronto and why they've taken away my hockey card. All right. We got the Carolina Hurricane. I'm so sorry. It's the Florida Panthers. Carolina Hurricanes versus the Boston Bruins. The Leafs are very lucky because there's still time. But if they faced Boston, it'd be a sweep. We got the Carolina Hurricane versus the Boston Bruins. I think this could be an upset. I think Boston could get them. Yep. I think Boston has the goaltending and the defense to make Carolina's life miserable, and I'm with you. I'm actually going to go with Boston. I think they could get them. But I think it's a 6-7 game series. I don't think it's quick. Then we got the New York Rangers, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Listen, man. New York has played really well this season. I looked them up because I kind of like the Rangers, and they also going up against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Rays. That is the problem. And I'm going in the first round. I normally go with the champs, so that's what I'm going with. And I'm not a Rangers fan. In fact, I'm a Ranger hater because I'm a Devils fan. So, okay. Jersey. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm a Devils fan, so I'm a Rangers hater. So I'm going with Tampa. Since there will be a game between Tampa Bay and I believe it might and New York, when I'm in Tampa, I will be cheering for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think if I can get tickets, I'm going to go. I haven't been to a hockey game since the 90s. I will go to a game if they haven't already swept the Rangers. I'm going to go to a Tampa Bay Rangers game when I'm there in a couple of weeks. All right, so let's go to the West. Now, the West, we've got, just so you know, my favorite team growing up as a kid, and I don't know if I was just anti-Toronto or I don't know what the deal was. I think everybody in my family. That's what it was, Tone. You were anti-Toronto. I might have been. They were all Maple Leafs fans, and to a fault. And even then, I was like, man, they haven't won in 30 years. They stink. And so my team as a kid, that just to bother everybody, was in baseball was the Montreal Expos, who then
became the Washington
Nationals.
Mm-hmm. And it was the Quebec Nordique who became the Colorado Avalanche. And of course, quickly after moving, win a Stanley Cup. So Colorado, we got Colorado right now. If it were to end today, Colorado, the Avalanche would be playing the Dallas Stars, formerly the Minnesota North Stars, who was another team. I like the North Stars, the Hartford Whalers. I remember playing video game hockey, and I was like, those were my teams that I liked. All right. So Colorado versus the Dallas Stars.
I'm going to go with Colorado. Definitely, I'm taking the number 1 seed, though.
Yeah, Colorado's looked great this year. 116 points this season already, which is actually tied with Florida, with your squad down there in Florida. Then we got the Calgary Flames, the Los Angeles Kings.
I don't never remember Calgary ever really being good, Tom.
Calgary was fantastic.
When they
had Lenny McDonald and they were winning Stanley Cups, man. Calgary was great in the 80s.
I'm thinking about Edmonton.
It's been a minute.
That's what because I'm thinking about Edmonton when they had Gretzky and they had
Mark Messier, Paul
Messier.
Coffey,
That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Was Calgary ever good? Yeah, they were really good. So I'm going with Calgary in the first round, Tom.
Calgary over my LA Kings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna strictly because I need some Canadian content. Because there's nobody in the East that I picked, so I'm gonna go with Calgary as well, just because they're Canadian. All right. Then we got the Minnesota Wild, which I love the name Wild because there's only like 7, maybe 9 teams in all of sports of the big 3: hockey, basketball, football, baseball, that don't have an S at the end of their name. Right? You got like the Heat, the Jazz. The Sox, whatever. Even though the Sox, it's kind of a cop-out because they use an X, but okay. And the Wild. So I like the Wild. So we got the Minnesota Wild against the Nashville Predators.
And they came back, and I actually was digging what Nashville was doing for a while. But Minnesota, I've seen highlights of them. They got a good team, Tom. I'm going with Minnesota.
Listen, remember I told you when my mom did my football picks for me and she picked based on everything other than the sport itself and she was really good? I love the city of Nashville. When I worked for Nissan Infinity and I was in Franklin, Tennessee, Franklin, and I would go up to, let me see, maybe up. Yes, it was north up to Nashville. I loved my time in Nashville. That's why I'm picking Nashville. I just love the city. So I'm going to pick Nashville in an upset. The next one, listen, that could work. St. Louis, the St. Louis Blues. And we just mentioned the Edmonton Oilers.
Yes, that's the 4-5 matchup. St. Louis got a pretty good history. They won a Stanley Cup not too long ago. I think they won it in 18 or 19. One of them.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. Yeah, absolutely.
They won a Stanley Cup. So I'm picking St. Louis.
You're going St. Louis. I'm going. Listen, more Canadian content. I also love the city of Edmonton. I spent a lot of time there. Interesting thing about Edmonton: when it's winter, they don't put salt on the roads. They put sand. And in that sand, it's a good traction, right? There's a lot of rocks. I have not been in one car, and I've been in maybe 20 cars in Edmonton. Not one that didn't have a windshield chip in it. Not one. I've been in Jaguars, Mercedes, Hondas. Doesn't matter.
Somebody got a chip in their window. Somebody has a chip in their windshield.
And so I think Edmonton has a chip on their shoulder. See what I did there? I think Edmonton gets the win over St. Louis. So just to recap. Florida, Washington, we're both going with Florida. Yep. Toronto, Pittsburgh, you're going Toronto. I'm going Pittsburgh. Carolina, Boston, we're both with Boston. New York, the Rangers versus Tampa Bay, we're both on Tampa Bay. Colorado, Dallas, we're both on Colorado. Calgary and the LA Kings, we're both going Calgary. Minnesota, Nashville, you got Minnesota, I got Nashville. St. Louis, Edmonton, you got St. Louis, I got Edmonton. There is your NHL picks. Use them wisely. Use them correctly. If you win money, share some. If you lose, I'm sorry. That's on you for listening to two guys who don't really follow hockey that much. But I do love the fact that you guys sent us a challenge, taking us out of our wheelhouse. I love it. So keep those in the comments. Send them. You can obviously IG. My DMs are open at sports_fluent. Or send them here in the comments. I know that we look at the comments. We do. We try to reply to the comments and at least the good ones. Like if you're trolling, we're not responding. And that's it. So that's it for this one. We're going to be live Monday, 8 p.m. on TikTok. Come join us. Until then,
take it light, but take it.